Hey, welcome to today's video. We're gonna go ahead and show you on how to pick what strike for the put options that you're selling over here in ETHA. Now, let's go ahead and go through these. So I have the option chain pulled up, and then also on this page, you can see the ETHA price, which is super important to know the ETHA price when you're dealing with this stuff, because if you don't know it, then really can't figure this stuff out. So I have the ETHA price right here, $19.28. Now, there's a couple of different options we have that we're looking at here when we are going to go sell puts. So I'm going to show you what you would make on each one and the value that is in each one of those puts, so you can decide how much you're going to make depending on what ETHA, the underlying asset, does over the period of time. So let's go ahead and look at each one kind of individually. So you have the 19, which is right below. That's us selling a put that's in the money. That would be out of the money. And the 1950, which is actually in the money, since you're right in between, you're at $19.28. So let's kind of math this out. So if we did the 1950 put, right now the spread is 88 cents to 93 cents. So I'm going to put in 90 cents, which is the midpoint here, and that's the put price. The strike price is 1950, okay? And then you have this little formula does the time value and the intrinsic value. Remember, the intrinsic value is what you would kind of owe if everything expired like it is today. So for example, next Friday, let's just assume on June 20th, the price of ETHA is exactly $19.28. The intrinsic value would be, of course, like we talked about, the strike price minus the ETHA price. And so you would essentially, if you wanted to buy that put back, you would pay 22 cents to buy that put back, or you would be put into ETHA. So you have those couple options on that expiry date. So we know for sure, no matter what the ETHA price does, we are going to make 68 cents, okay? Because that's just the time value. That's the decay value. That's what's going to go down. That's the volatility value. And so we know for sure our capital required is $1,950. You take the strike price times 100. And then your return is going to be $68 over the week, which is 3.49%. Now, let's do a couple of assumptions here. Let's assume that the ETHA price goes to exactly our strike price, $19.50. What's going to happen? So you're going to make the full 68 cents, and then when I push enter, it's going to show you're actually going to make the full 90 cents. So you're actually going to make a little bit more, because the intrinsic value will then get added to the time value, because what happens? You owe $0 to basically buy that put back. It'll essentially expire worthless. I mean, it'll be dang close. I mean, it'd be better to be 1951 if we're being honest. So, but like 1950, you would essentially owe $0 to buy the put back. It expires worthless. You make the entire 90 cents, best case scenario. We don't live in a world where it's best case scenario, right? So anything above 1950, 20 bucks. So if ETHA goes up 21 bucks, 22 bucks, 23 bucks, you're going to make the full 90 bucks. Even if it goes to $1 million, you'd make 90 bucks. Okay. Your upside limit's kind of capped to the strike price. Okay. Let's say it's trading at 1928 right now. Let's say the ETHA price goes down. What happens? So let's just say it expires, at 19 bucks. Okay. We basically get the full 68 cents, but our intrinsic value actually went up. So we would owe a little bit more when we have to buy the put back, or we roll the put, because the cost of the put on expiration would be the strike price minus the ETHA price. So we'd actually spend 50 cents to buy the put back, or we're going to be put into the stock. If we're put into the stock, then we make the full original 68 cents. But then we have to buy so we have to buy it back. So essentially, if we wanted to get out of this option, we would net 40 cents, okay? And if we wanted to roll this option, it'd be the same thing, because we'd be buying it back at 50 cents. So I'm going to say best case scenario, let's just say ETHA stays the same. And then we can analyze all of our options just the same. So right there, that's the 1950. Now, what does the 19 look like? So the 19, this gives us 3.49%. Actually, let's look at the 20 first. So let's change this to 20. Obviously, the underlying price is the same. And then the put price on the 20 would be $1.23. Okay. So we can then figure time value is going to be less, obviously, because it's it's deeper. So there's actually going to be less time value and more intrinsic value. And you can see that all the way up. Even if we did the $21 one, we would go up here and we'd change the price to $1.95. You're going to have even less time decay value, all intrinsic value. So what that means is on expiration day, if it's $19.28, you're going to owe $1.72, or you're going to put into the ETHA stock. And what that means is you're really not getting a lot of time decay value. So it's really not worth it to go that far out. So I like to stay right in and around the money. So let's look at the $20 again, just to kind of wrap that button up. $1.23 is right at the midpoint. So you'd make about 2.55%. Not bad. Plus, you get some upside. So if ETHA went up to 25 bucks, crazy move, you'd make 6% versus the other one. You actually were capped at like 4 point something percent. Okay. So you get a little bit more upside move. So if you think ETHA is going to move, you might want to take that and get that intrinsic value hope and hopefully make that a little bit more of that upside move. So even if it goes to like 1975 and gets close, you still make a little bit more of the upside model and your return's a little bit better. But if it stays exactly the same, this is what you're going to make. You're going to make 51 cents, okay? Now, let's just say we buy one underneath that's completely out of the money right now. So let's just look at the $19 strike. Now, the price of that one is 66 cents, okay? What's this one look like? Well, you have zero intrinsic value. So if the price stays the same, it's completely all out of the money. You make all the 66 cents. Even if the price moves down a little bit, you still make the entire 66 cents. Now, the price would have to move to like 1880, then you would owe 20 cents. You'd only make 46 cents because you owe 20 cents when it expires, and so on and so forth. So you have a little bit downside protection when you sell out of the money like that, okay? So some people like to do that. They get a little bit of downside protection, but they're still making a pretty good return, $3.47. So right now, this is my number one pick on the option strike that I'm looking at right now because it gives me a little downside. But what does it limit you on? Upside. So if the price goes to 1950, you get no more upside. Versus if you would have bought the 1950 strike, okay? We're sitting at 1928. The 1950 strike is 90 cents, okay? Right now, as things sit, you get 3.49%. But if the price moves up to 1950, you get a little bit of upside. So you actually make a little bit more. So if you buy out of the money, let's even look at the 1850, and the price is 46 cents. You get no upside. I mean, you're protected all the way down to 1850, and you still make the 46 bucks or whatever, but you get no upside. So if you think you're in a market where things might kind of move up, which that could be the case right now, then you want to maybe get something that's one strike in the money and potentially capture some of that intrinsic value as it moves up. But if you think you want to protect yourself in a market that's kind of moving a little bit down and you want that downside protection, sure. Protect yourself all the way to 1850, even though the stock is sitting at 1928 right now. This 1850 option protects you all the way down to 1850. Plus, you make a meager 2.49% per week. What does that average out to? 10% a month? I mean, compounding, you're still over 150% annually, which is actually nuts. Okay? So that's kind of how you would look at some of these options when you're pricing them. Where do you want to protect yourself? Do you want to get a little bit of downside protection and get a little bit further out of the money? Or do you want to maybe get some of that intrinsic value as the stock moves up, which is potentially what you could do. That's why I kind of like even one of these 1950s, maybe even the 20, because I think things might start moving up here, over ETHA for a little bit. But we'll just kind of have to watch and see how that goes. So you just got to decide for yourself what you buy, and kind of it's also kind of one of those things where you decide in the moment where things are sitting and what you need for your account and where you think things are going. So that kind of just shows you what things look like as far as option value, the time decay, and the volatility that's wrapped up in an option, and the intrinsic value. If you have any questions, put those in the comments below. Otherwise, we will see you in the next one.